and saying, you don't own these cows, you don't own that wheat, you don't own this plow, you don't own these things. It isn't yours. None of it, any longer, is yours.
With the stroke of a pen, he takes away the livelihood of 4/5 of the population.
And guess what this liberal would be all about? This liberal will be all about socializing, would be about basically taking over and the government running all your companies.
All that belonged to our farm had to be surrendered. We were not allowed to keep anything. The order was given that everything belonged to the collectives. I don't know what drove Stalin to issue such an order. He destroyed human beings.
But the farmers fight back. They refuse to deliver their harvest. Without hesitation, Stalin orders a frontal assault on the rural population. A wave of violence sweeps the country. The secret police are ordered to search peasants' homes and confiscate all personal property. Stalin brings in brutal enforcers, like Kuzma Petrenko, to lead this operation.
We were sent off. They gave us a few horses, a carriage, or in winter, a sleigh. Then we went to the villages and systematically searched every single farm and house, one by one.
The police just came in and took everything away. It was impossible to hide anything from them. They took everything apart and searched every nook and cranny. We got a paper from the local Soviet detailing exactly how much grain we were to deliver.
We considered Stalin's orders to be law, ironclad law. We believed in him, and so we carried out his orders.
Land is simply seized, and the wealthier peasants, or kulaks, are declared enemies of the people. People can only save their lives by escaping, but Stalin has the roads blocked and train lines suspended. There is no way out. Millions of Ukrainians are trapped.
Purge in Russian means chistka. Chistka is cleaning up. If you were going to clean the cupboard in your house, you would be performing a chistka. But his chistka affected millions. In 1937 alone, over 900,000 people were arrested. And these were not all the people who were arrested. These were just party members who were arrested. Of them, 300,000 were shot outright. Just, after 10 or 15-minute trial. They were just shot. These troikas would go around, the so-called troikas. They were made up of 3 field judges. And they would go from place to place, and you would bring somebody to the troika, and they would hear the charges, and the prisoner would say, "I'm not guilty," and then they'd shoot him. It was as simple as this.
During a 2-year period, more than 1.5 million people are killed nationwide. Known as the Great Terror, it is a meticulously organized mass extermination. Former monasteries become preferred locations for murder. Even the smallest village must meet its quota.
Just like the production quota for timber, the quota for extermination was overfulfilled, especially among the country's elite. That was absolutely typical for Stalin's type of terror.
In Moscow, Stalin relaxes at the ballet, his favorite, Swan Lake. When the applause dies, he returns to his desk. It's a killer workload. He signs death warrants, often several thousand in a single night. Sometimes he finds the lists too short and adds a grim note like this: 6,000 more, no matter who.
Stalin would stay up late at night drawing up lists of people, whom to arrest, whom to execute. He himself was personally informed of how the interrogations would go. He himself personally gave the orders.
366 death lists, signed in red ink by Stalin himself. 44,000 names. Sometimes the dictator crosses out a name and spares a life.
I brought up the subject of what's going to happen after we take over the government. We become responsible then for administrating, 250 million people. And there was no answers. No one had given any thought to economics. How are you going to clothe and feed these people? The only thing that I could get was that they expected that the Cubans and the North Vietnamese and the Chinese and the Russians would all want to occupy different portions of the United States. They also believed that their immediate responsibility would be to protect against what they called the counter-revolution. And they felt that this counter-revolution could best be guarded against by creating and establishing re-education centers in the Southwest, where we would take all the people who needed to be re-educated into the new way of thinking and teach them how things were going to be. I asked, well, what is going to happen to those people that we can't re-educate, that are die-hard capitalists? And the reply was that they'd have to be eliminated. And when I pursued this further, they estimated that they would have to eliminate 25 million people in these re-education centers. And when I say eliminate, I mean kill. 25 million people. Now, I want you to imagine sitting in a room with 25 people, most of which have graduate degrees from Columbia and other well-known educational centers, and hear them figuring out the logistics for the elimination of 25 million people. And they were dead serious.
Those not executed are deported to the Gulag in Siberia, in cattle cars, under horrible conditions.
28 people were squeezed into each cattle car. We had nothing to drink, but they gave us salted fish. We were stupid enough to eat that because we could not imagine they would let us die of thirst. And we didn't have a toilet either.
Thousands of prisoners are transported to the camps daily. After 3 months and over 4,000 miles on the so-called death route, prisoner Peter Demont reached Siberia.
That's where we got out of the railroad cars. We stumbled and crawled, or rather fell out of the train. And of course, we were surrounded by armed guards who searched each and every car, so nobody could hide.
Prison warden Danzig Baldaev recalls the horror. Baldaev becomes the secret chronicler of the atrocities. These are the only authentic images from inside the Gulag.
The life of the individual was worth nothing. Absolutely nothing. The whole system was built on nothing but violence, blood, and a mountain of corpses.